never been to Colombia before, and I expected lots of spices and lots of fruit, and there was lots of fruit and not a lot of spices. Yeah, and then that picnic that we had with like more fruit than I've ever seen before, it was crazy. I didn't think I could fill up on food like that. It was wild.
The drinks was mainly all kinds of juices: coconut juice, orange juice, pineapple juice, juices I can pronounce. Guanabana.
There's a lot of traffic
Yes.
in Bogota. A lot.
Very loud traffic.
Yeah.
Loud traffic.
A lot of honking. Yeah. And we have to get up super early in the morning because we never know how the traffic's going to be.
In Bogota, it rains a lot, so that's weird because it's also very warm. So it's like warm rain, tropical weather. But in Santa Marta, we have to be careful with the sun. Maybe a lot of people get sick because of the weather. You have to put a lot of sunscreen.
I think it's because the UV, yes, it's a lot higher than in Europe or other country.
The thing that surprised me the most is that like part of the city is really like modern, you know, in some sense. And then on the other hand, like 5 minutes when you drive, like 5 minutes you can see like very modern buildings and like offices and stuff, and then you're like in the slums, and then you're in the modern again. It's like a very big gap between rich and poor. It's very visible.
Yeah. Even though Bogota might seem kind of safe for us, it's very evident that every place you go, they have like very high security, like going into bars and restaurants and everything. And it's just, it's just because they're used to this high, like they have a history of violence and a war on drugs, and they want to get rid of weapons, so they make sure that every place is like really safe.
We split the student group up into two different groups, one of them working as the technical crew, anchored by Angelo, and one of them serving as sort of the knowledge base, interviewers, experts, having looked into the documents concerning the peace agreement, the conflict itself. And I think they worked really well together. They knew what to do at the times when they had to be ready, and so I'm really proud of them.
The crew was very independent. I didn't have to do much. They knew what they were doing. We practiced, we rehearsed. There was different camera operators, sound operators. They knew what they were doing.
We proceeded to having an interview with a member of the High Commission of Peace, the commission that had been established by the Colombian government to negotiate the peace agreement on their behalf. So the representative there, she had been in Havana for the 4 years the peace negotiations had taken place, finding the best possible conditions and solutions for both FARC and the Colombian people. We were lucky enough to be invited to a big colloquium, a talk with 3 different representatives from 3 different aspects of the peace agreement. One with a representative of the government, of the Peace Commission. We were very fortunate to meet up also with the former leader of ELN, another one of the guerrilla organizations in Colombia, and then a professor from the school that talked about the different aspects or the emotional aspects of the Colombian people, why so many Colombian people had resisted the peace agreement, and why the original in the original referendum had voted no to the peace agreement. We visited the ACR, the Reintegration program for former guerrillas, both from FARC, ELN, M19.
The key words that kept in our minds after this specific meeting was the humanizing of the FARC members, because this has been qualified as a terrorist group, qualified as monsters, has a very negative image to wash off and to be accepted in Colombian society, and this is kind of the main objective of reintegration.
We had a meeting with Professor Michael Weinberg at the Andes University in the center of the city. He also emphasized the idea of the humanization of them, that is essentially what a peace agreement is. It is turning terrorists into human beings that can live side by side with people. We were also lucky enough to meet with Imelda Lassa, who worked in Congress and had survived or was a survivor of a paramilitary attack
She gave us this different perspective of the victims of the conflict. Because in our head, the victims of the conflict are the victims of the guerrillas, FARC, of ELN. But what she said is that the percentage of victims of guerrillas, it's smaller when compared to the victims of the paramilitary, of the army. And that puts everything into perspective.
And then potentially the highlight of the trip, sort of where everything came together, was us having been given the opportunity to go to Icononso, which hosts a temporary FARC camp, where approximately 360 FARC members, they were placed in order for them to transit into civil life.
We are in a place that I commonly call the middle of bloody nowhere, in the Andes, somewhere.
Georges, what do you have in the bag?
I have some games for the FARC member.
Okay, what kind of games?
We have a cranium, Pictionary, a poker game, Uno.
When we eventually walked up the hill and we arrived at the reception and they gave us food and it didn't look very appealing, I was scared to say no. That's like the thing I can describe it with.
Yeah, I was I was completely fine with the idea until the actual day before, when I looked at Kiko and I said, what if one of us gets killed? And it just kind of popped out, and I was like, obviously I don't mean it, but still, I was kind of freaked out.
Yeah, I thought they would be really cold and not welcoming at all. And like the first thing they said when we arrived was, "This is your home." And then I felt like really welcomed. And
I think I have never talked with terrorists before, so it was kind of a new experience. But they were just as normal as everyone else, I think. When you got to meet them and got to talk with them, and yeah, it was a nice experience.
They were still armed, they still had their weapons there, but they were ready to show that they wanted to establish peace, that they wanted to live up to their part of the peace agreement. I think the strongest aspect of this was that we saw their children, we saw them play, we saw them play football with one another, we saw them make food, we ate their food.
But you do get a positive image when you go.
I do get a positive image when I'm with them, but it's just scary to think that they seem so nice, but then still you don't know what they've done. And they give you a hug, and then, it's weird to think about.
Yeah, but I think according to the media, we were told that they were terrorists and they killed. Yeah, I know, but that's what we heard. They were terrorists. They'd killed and kidnapped and held hostage and loads of things like that. But then we talked to a lot of the professors, and they were a lot more biased in saying they want to integrate. They want people to know that you're human. So I think we still did have a bit of a sense of their humanity before we saw them. But I was definitely happily surprised on that day, meeting them and feeling absolutely, I don't know, just they were happy for it's safe.
Yeah.
I felt safer there than in some streets in Bogota, actually.
At the end of the day, it was a very powerful experience going through the camp, seeing how they were living, seeing the conditions in which they were living, and basically they said they had established the camp just as they would any other camp they had done before the peace agreement. Just this time around, it was in the open. It wasn't in the jungle.
We really realized that we were super lucky to be at IPC and have all these commodities. And
Because all of these FARC members, they're always cleaning their clothes, they're washing up, they're making dinner, they're always busy doing something for the community. Whereas we clean the school twice a week and think it's too much.
But they also kind of educating themselves as we are. So
Colombians are just so nice and so
really
open, and I've got the best impression of Colombians while being here.
same.
We asked at the end of the visit, what can we do? And they had a very powerful message saying that now we had to, as an international community, to make sure that the Colombian government were living up to their part of the peace agreement as well. Now they were ready to give up their arms, but now they needed the government to live up to their part of the agreement as well, and make sure that they could transit into civil life afterwards.